Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor. And this is another one of those chats about leadership. And today I have a special guest, Janaya, who's not only going to talk about her journey in becoming a leader in healthcare, but also talk about her book that she has written. As somebody who's passionate about writing and publishing, we all know, and that's the kind of funny thing is that we don't sell more than 200 books. Why? Because we don't have any more family and friends. But having read Janaya's book, I really think it deserves to be printed and go out to many more of you because building deep connections to people is really where the magic takes place. So I look forward to having a conversation about her book. Welcome to our podcast about leadership and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Walter. Very, very happy to be here in your networking space. A little bit about myself, and then I'll go into how I got to the journey to actually writing The Power of Connection. I am a medic, retired sergeant from the military. I went to nursing school. And as long as I've been a nurse, I've been a nurse leader, I've been in management, I like operations. So I've had the opportunity to be a hospital director, and I've stayed in that role for, I can't disagree with my discipline.
And good day, everybody. Hi, I'm Walter, and I'm the Dutch mentor. And this is another one of those chats about leadership. And today I have a special guest, Janaya, who's not only going to talk about her journey in becoming a leader in healthcare, but also talk about her book that she has written. As somebody who's passionate about writing and publishing, we all know, and that's the kind of funny thing is that we don't sell more than 200 books. Why? Because we don't have any more family and friends. But having read Janaya's book, I really think it deserves to be printed and go out to many more of you because building deep connections to people is really where the magic takes place. So I look forward to having a conversation about her book, where it came from, how she came up with the idea, how she was disciplined enough to be able to sit and actually put pen to paper. But of course, we'd like to get to know her a little bit better first. So welcome to our podcast about leadership and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Walter. Very, very happy to be here in your networking space. A little bit about myself, and then I'll go into how I got to the journey to actually writing The Power of Connection. I am a medic, retired sergeant from the military. That's how I got my window into healthcare, I will say. From there, after serving in 9/11, something in me told me to go be a behavior analyst. We're still trying to figure that part of the journey out. But I did that for 10 years. And after
Oh.
that, I was like, I miss healthcare. I need to get back in. And I went to nursing school. And as long as I've been a nurse, I've been a nurse leader, I've been in management, I like operations. So I've had the opportunity to be a hospital director, and I've stayed in that role for 15 years now.
Time
Yes.
flies when you're having
Yeah,
fun.
time is flying. And a lot of it is fun, and some of it is still up for debate.
Very good. It's funny. We have a similar background. We started both as paramedics or medics, and I think that's always a really good place to start because you become a very independent thinker and
Yes.
producer, right? And that really sets the mindset that listen, you cannot be codependent on others. Give me a mission. Tell me, point me in the right direction, and we'll get the job done. So tell me more.
Correct. Very military. The military set the base. I can't disagree with my discipline. That discipline is what I probably used and channeled to write my book. The Power of Connection, a mentee's guide to mastery, came from just a thought of interacting and connecting and networking and going to events such as ACHE, NAHSC, and NALI, and just hearing other young careerists. The anxiety that they deal with now is very different than the networking that you and I, probably early on in our career had to deal with. And I felt like there was a void in just a work plan for them, like a pamphlet, something that was tangible for them to reference and, feed their knowledge. Give, like, we did what we needed to do so that we can give them the blueprint. So I made it very simple. It's an easy read. And I just reference all the networking that I've done throughout my career and made it very simple. And a tangible device, and that was my main goal. I channeled many of my own life experiences and networking successors and losses, and put it pen to paper.
So very interesting, and that's exactly, when I write a book, it is about an architecture, right? I come up with a
Correct.
storyboard, I kind of lay it out and can start with the headlines, the topics, and try to make it an house, right? You have to start at the sub foundation, find the right ingredients, find something that of interest. So especially in today's world, post COVID, where especially the next generation, they spend more and more time like we are today in a virtual environment without shaking hands or sipping coffee or a beer at night. It is more done in a digital age. So networking is really interesting. That I don't think there's anything that can substitute of being in person. But did you?
Correct.
But how do you see networking and the value of networking in a digital environment?
So I made sure, knowing the environment that we are in now, COVID was a surprise to everyone. We were not ready, and it changed not only how we network, but how we also work, how we communicate. So I did dedicate a chapter in the book to, you know, not being afraid to utilize LinkedIn, not being afraid to join virtual book clubs, not being afraid to join conferences that are online, because those are still networking opportunities. Emailing is not going away, phones are not going away, and building those connections virtually. We dedicated a whole chapter to that, and just knowing, being friendly in conversation, though it may not be in person. I made sure to reference those tools.
So I'm an introvert, and I'm a little shy, and it's very difficult for me to have conversations. But I certainly want to, climb that career ladder. What would you suggest for those folks who are not so easily stand up in a crowd and say, "Hey, come have a conversation with me"?
I believe in using prompts. I worked at being an extrovert. I don't think we naturally are. I like to communicate in my bubble. I'm very friendly with those I'm comfortable with, and it could take me a little bit of time to warm up to those I don't know, or I'm less engaged with. For a nicer phrase. So I like to use prompts, like t-shirts are the best, because then you have something, someone will say, what is that? Where is that from? And then now you have an icebreaker that you may not have to do on your own. I That's where I love the virtual setting, because right, we kind of hide behind the keyboard, and we can be a little bit more comfortable and flexible in our responses, and pause a little bit before responding than we wouldn't really naturally do if we were in person. But I would utilize that as a foundation to breaking out, because in person can't be replaced. Like, you want to feel the vibe
Mhm.
and feel that connection. But you could utilize virtual and prompts as baby steps to getting the courage up before you go back out into the networking community.
Yeah, very good. And prompt is a fantastic way to open up a conversation. But so I want to cover the other side of the equation, because and I think you've done a fantastic job in the book, and I highly encourage people to read about it. But as mentors, as leaders in the industry, we are equally responsible to open up the channels of communication to those people who are coming into the rooms to network. And you just used the word the bubble, right? We
Mhm.
tend to have we have a tendency to stay in a group that we feel comfortable around, and we stand around
Mhm.
in a circle. And I would encourage people to really use what I refer to as the horseshoe technique. Always make sure that the circle is open on
Mhm.
one end. So when you have an introverted person, has the ability to enter that circle, if not for nothing else, to stand there and listen to it. And these are types of in-person events, but you can do the exact same thing when you are in a digital environment, right? And when I host my open coaching calls, and you've joined a few times now, is that we go around the table, right? I ask the question. I don't wait for people to participate. I ask you to participate. So make sure that from a mentor, coach, leader perspective, it is our responsibility to be able to bring these introverts into it, because often
Yes.
they have a lot to add to to the story,
Yes.
right?
We
And
just have to prompt them to pull it out.
exactly, exactly. And people have a hard time believing, but I am an introvert myself. I mean, I can be an extrovert. My kids laugh at me all the time. Ah, that's so funny. You're crazy for saying that you're a complete extrovert. But you know, and the way you know you're different between an introvert and extrovert is, listen, when I go work a room, it sucks the energy out of me. That's an introvert, right?
Yes, yes,
Experience.
yes.
If you're an extrovert, you go into the room and you get lots of energy out of it. No, you're an extrovert, right? So that's how. So from in your book, you talk about, you know, the power of networking. So
Yes.
too often I hear people say, "Well, networking is like for applying for a job, and I'm looking for a job." But that is not what networking is about. So
No.
tell us what networking is really meant to be and how can it benefit somebody's career?
So networking could be utilized as a tool, but it should be your second job. Like it should be the top of your, what we say, recipe. You want to utilize networking to its advantage, but you also want to participate in it. And I'm an encourager. I like that you know reference the mentors and the mentees. Those are the meat and potatoes of networking. The buddy system is great. You do a great platform at the round table of, you know, calling out and holding us accountable to engaging. And that to me is networking, holding yourself accountable to interacting with like minds. But we use that as the base to get to where we want to get to. You know, sometimes what we think we want, we really don't want. And that's the power of connections, shadowing, you know, like minds who we think, you know, I'm very big on shadowing. If I notice someone and they look like their career is an abundance of fun, I'm talking to that person. That's where my extrovert, you know, in me comes out. And I'm going over and I'm saying, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Do you mind if I shadow you for a day?" I have saved myself many failures in applying to jobs by doing that. And, you know, those are one of the techniques that I also reference in the book. I can't speak enough of engagement, whether it be at the digital platform like you and I are doing. You know, I was fortunate to meet you in person, but having the opportunity to go to some of your roundtables, I was able to connect with other like minds
Mhm.
that I haven't been able to meet in person. And I will cherish those connections because I will be able to utilize those tools in future events. So
Excellent. Yeah, it is. It's exceptionally important to be open to different things. So one thing that I was taught a long time ago is that the power of networking, is really the nine. It's, you know, we call it Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation. Well,
yes.
in networking, it's the ninth degree, meaning that everybody that you meet along the way, and if you made a positive impression on them, at some point in time, they tell somebody or they come across a job. They said, "Hey, I remember Janae. I met her at the ACAC. She was really wonderful, energetic, and she has the expertise I'm looking for. Let me reach out to her." Right. So the
Sponsorship.
mindset is not to go into networking to get a job. The mindset of going to networking is to make connections.
We
Right. And I
speak
love
about it. It's
what you,
very popular. Very
yes,
popular now.
yes, and I love what you just said about the shadowing piece, right? If you want something, you know, an interview in a company is a two-way conversation, right? It is not just you are hiring me, but I'm hiring you as well. And even before you get that point in time, reaching out to somebody and say, "Hey, listen, can I follow you around for a day?" Is a really powerful way of learning. So thank you for sharing that with the audience. It's underutilized, right? If you
Yes.
really
Yes,
think
very
about
much
that.
so.
So the other thing that I think the power of networking is that an opening question. So I know that you use your T-shirt as a prompt, right? Ask me a question about my silly T-shirt. But what would you teach folks when they go into a conversation? How can I start a conversation? Because I just despise small talk. Tell me, how can I start a conversation or start participating in a conversation?
I personally like the buddy system. I'm an advocate for it. So if you are a true introvert and you know once you're engaged in the conversation, you can go a little bit a long way, but it's that first step. Have someone introduce you. "Hi, Paul. This is Janaya. Hi, Janaya. How are you?" And then from there, you can kind of pick it up to where it's you can gauge if it's going to be meaningful conversation. You're going to be able to participate it in longer. Don't be afraid to, you know, loop in and close a conversation if you're not getting anything out of it, because then you're forcing yourself to continue and it's not genuine. And, you know, people read off auras. So if I meet someone, every connection is not going to be a good one. and it may not be right away, right? You may have to go at it multiple times, but I encourage someone to say, hey, I don't really know that person, and I saw that you were talking to him. I'd like to go meet them. And that buddy system is, hey, let me go introduce you. If you don't have a buddy, and then you kind of gather up the courage, right? You have your prompts, you have everything. A simple hello will open up the door. And then a person's receptiveness is they should say hello back. And I've never said hello to someone and they haven't said hello back, especially if I'm going to a conference or a networking event.
Exactly.
If that happens to you, you're in the wrong space. And we have a whole nother 30 minutes to discuss that. So, you say hello, you introduce yourself, very simple. And what is it that you do, right? Because people genuinely like to talk about themselves. They do. And they'll let you know, and then off of that answer, you now explain what you do and see if you build a connection there. And again, it's okay to be like, nice to meet you, and move on.
It is excellent advice. It's about learning to relate to the other person. And somebody taught me a long time ago, less is more. Right?
Yes.
Try not to have diarrhea of the mouth and take over the conversation, which is very difficult when you're nervous. But
Mm-hmm.
be more mindful of that. So lead with a question. Hey, tell me a little bit about what you do. And I even tell people, come into a networking event with an agenda. Make it a
Yes.
point that my goal today is to meet 5 new people. Right. Our natural tendency is to go into the group of all people that we know already, and that's fun, but I didn't grow from that, right?
Yeah.
And I love your suggestion about using a buddy system, because that certainly is empowering, right? Two is always stronger than one. The other thing
Yes.
I would suggest in that is that if you go into a meeting where you know Joe Smith, who you've been admiring from a distance, is going to be there, go to their LinkedIn profile, find something about that particular person of interest, a book they wrote, an article they published, and something that they performed or posted about, and use that as your to the person, because like it or not, we all have a little bit of ego and pride,
Yes.
and stroke that, right? Go in there, say, hey, that was a phenomenal article last week. Tell me a little bit more about that. And that is really, really, really powerful. Now, networking, digital networking in the space is great. But now what about the follow-up? Do I ask people for a business card? Do I ask them to connect with me on LinkedIn? How do I follow up with these people?
I'm a firm believer in reading the room. So know your audience, and you're going to learn your audience, whether it's digital or in person. So if I'm on with, I think that we use the phrase millenniums, an email may not be the best form of a follow-up for them, right? Because we can take advice and learn and grow from all ages. So, we don't want to put anyone in a bubble. So if I'm with senior leaders, email is usually our device where we have it on our phone. We're always connecting. Utilize the environment as your backup to follow up. So again, there's these new dot business cards. they're all the rage, right? So if that expertise or platform is what's utilizing, kind of follow that path. And that can also be utilized as a form of next conference, next communication. Hey, I saw that you had that dot business card. Tell me a little bit about that. Now we build another connection to expand on. Next time you connect with that connection, you can be like, I took your advice and I got it. Now we're building kind of like a business level friendship, is what I like to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's building relationships that could potentially become partnerships in the future. The key thing is not to ask anything of them. So if you follow up, you can say, hey, it was great to meet you the other day. I really was
Very
interested
simple.
about your conversation about population health management. I hope to continue the conversation. Try not to go, hey, it was great to meet you. Good conversation. Oh, by the way, I would love to work for you.
Yes,
Because
no.
try to refrain. The networking that you are promoting is about building these lasting relationship, and making an impression that at some
Yes.
point in time somebody can have a recall about that and say, hey, listen. So with that, so we talked a bit about the person that they're going to be approaching, but about themselves, right? So what would you say to the person? How can they prepare of having to have the ability to articulate in a very concise manner who they are?
If you're investing in yourself and really trying to build your networking family, you have to build a brand. You and I don't mean an advertising brand, very low level. Who am I? What avenue do I want to go on? And do your homework. Yeah. So, I try to make a list of like difficult things that I'm going to do. You made a reference. I'm going to make 5 connections. I want to research some of those connections. I'm looking to see what kind of conference it is. What's the topic? Who's going to be the crowd there? So you want to invest in a little bit of research so that you can prepare yourself and align yourself with the environment you want to be involved in. Right?
Yeah.
I'm into healthcare, so I'm not going to go to an engineering conference. That's not my window of opportunity, because you made a very strong point in the beginning of the conversation. It's the sponsorship. I don't need to go into the network recruiting for the job. My brand and how I presented myself should make those connections so someone should suggest me for the job. And I think once you learn that difference, you become a little bit more confident and work on oneself.
Yeah. So it is the elevator speech that you talk about. Is that the why? And I always recommend people go to YouTube and look up Simon Sinek.
Yes,
A TED talk about starting with your why, and that really is about self awareness, right? Make an interesting story, but it should last no more than 45 seconds, right? And a hook, a body, and a closing, and then make it about something that people can relate to and make it memorable. You add in super strength to that, and I think you have said enough for any first conversation, so to speak. Unless you on a one-to-one,
exactly.
professional dinner where you need to cover 2 hours. But that, from a conversation standpoint, is very, very good. So listen, without giving the secrets of the entire book away, because on the end of the day, we still want to sell some copies of that, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so tell us where we find your book, and any comments that you heard back from people who already have read it.
So I have exciting news. I took Walter. You've been very, very helpful along my journey. And I kept in mind, I only have 200 families. I actually have a big family, so I have more than
Okay.
200 people. However, last week we got great news that we sold 1,000 copies. I was very, very excited, especially for being it's the first time author. The book is on Amazon. The Power of Connection, a mentee's guide to networking mastery. It's available on Kindle. I made it very affordable because it's not just for seniors. It's for mid levels, for early careerists, and we've all been to college and we know economics. I will
Yeah.
say. So we want everybody to make it affordable for all. Uh, I encourage. There's some tangible, very good references that not only I or you, who we've been in healthcare a very long time, but early careerists can use to help build the confidence and understand the platform of networking. So
Excellent. Well, congratulations on your 1,000 books sold, and I hope we can add a zero to that in the future someday. And
yeah,
and again, it's not about very few of us write for money. We write for
no,
sharing experiences, right? And I always say, if our conversation today can have an impact on one, was worthy our time to do that, right? The same thing as the books that we write, the information and the guidance that we provide. It's about having material impact, and hopefully somebody will take an action. And so, yeah, I always encourage people not to just come to a conference for the sake of the conversation, but it is about taking an action. So, what would you say to the listener today? What action should they take in order to make this real? Other,
invest in
other
yourself.
than buying your book, of course.
Yes, invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Do your homework. Put in the time. It will come. Be patient. It will come.
Excellent. And the goal with that is, right, when you say investing in yourself, is that come up with a scorecard, hold yourself accountable to certain things that you're going to do. It's
Yes.
so easy for us to say, and it's too often, 80, 90% of the time, we don't do that. We don't follow up, right? So it is really in the follow up and holding yourself accountable where the tangible outcomes come from. Janae, great conversation today. I really, really enjoyed it. We're going to come bring you back sometime. We're going to have more conversations about other topics. Look forward to seeing you on
Absolutely.
the roundtable, because you always add value there as well. Anybody listening, we host a weekly roundtable on Wednesdays for more senior level leaders or people who want to be COOs. On Fridays, we have an open coaching call. If you're interested in that, by all means, reach out to me at info at thedutchmentor.com. You can always book a call with me at my website, thedutchmentor.com. go buy Janae's book. It's on Amazon. I bought it. I read it. I enjoyed it. I left a nice reference for everybody to refer to
Yes.
get some additional insight. And I look forward to building our friendship, our connection, our partnership into the future. Again, thank you for joining
Absolutely.
me today.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.